20 seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Tech in 20. We are the broadcast that is covering all things happening in the world of social media, digital media, interactive media. It's happening in the world of media and technology, folks. We are talking about it. And as always, if you're looking to catch up with our entire archive of audio broadcasts, look no further than techin20.com. Once you point your browser there, you will be greeted with a ton of interviews that we've done, topic discussions, as well as panel discussions on all sorts of stuff. I mean, we've covered everything from politics to porn to, religion to all types of late-breaking news. We've talked to industry shakers and business makers, and it's been a lot of fun, and we hope that you find that as well. So make sure that you check that out and drop us a line either on Facebook or on Twitter. You can even call into our show and let us know what you think. We'd love to hear your feedback. And as always, we are your hosts. My name is Louis Sandoval.
And my name is Jennifer Navarrete. And this week we're going to be talking with David Murray with Moncure Associates. David, I want to welcome you to the show. Or maybe not.
He actually is on the line. David, are you there? All right, he is on the line. He actually just looks like he got knocked off, but he will probably be jumping back on fairly soon. But you're right, Jennifer.
Why don't you share with our listeners what we're going to talk about this evening?
Okay, so as Jennifer said, we're going to be talking to David Murray, who is actually Director of Social Media at Moncure Associates. Now, this is a firm in Michigan, and we're basically going to pick up where we left off on Tuesday, talking about creativeness and innovation with branding and a lot of the business building aspects. David, I know, has hands-on in a first-hand view of what it's like to work with clients and what it's like to work within a firm. And we're going to talk a little bit about that creativity and that innovation that goes into using social media, because it's more than just two people hanging out or talking or sharing what you did for breakfast. And so that's kind of what David's going to talk to us about. How is he and the company he works for using social media for their clients? So, David, we got you on the line.
Hello. Am I here?
Oh, yes. Hello, David.
Okay, cool. I called in earlier, but I may have hit the wrong button. Good to hear from you guys again.
Well, David, can you tell us, Louis kind of did a little intro, and I'd like to hear from you about what it is that you do with your clients and maybe some of the challenges that you face when it comes to social media in an agency.
Sure. Well, that's a pretty broad question, but, in a nutshell, what we do is we help our clients communicate online, communicate effectively, and though that may sound a little trite or silly, it's actually rather difficult because businesses and organizations were never really built for communication. They were built for marketing, and that's not necessarily what the social web is all about. You can certainly market through social media, but no one really wants to hear a marketing spiel. No one wants to hear a commercial. They'd rather talk with someone. They'd rather have a dialogue with a representative of the company versus hear something from that logo. So a lot of businesses, not all, but a lot of businesses are not in a position to communicate with their customers. They just simply don't know how, or they're just not set up internally for a two-way dialogue, and so that's where we come into play. So I kind of heard Louis's intro a little bit, and you're right. There's a lot more to this than just let's update the Facebook page. Let's tweet some stuff, or we need some blog content. The big challenge is trying to find out individually for our clients, what are their passion points? What's the emotional drive that connects them with their customers, be it B2C or B2B? How can we bridge that with what we know about the client to their potential customers who may not know that this company is actually doing some great things or has a product that can actually help them. How can we teach this company to help their customers versus market to their customers? And that's not there's not really a one-fits-all template for something like that. You really have to understand where the client is, where their potential audience is, and where their specific industry is when it comes to the social web. And you also have to take into consideration what their current marketing objectives are. You just shouldn't be doing social media blind. Everything has to line up as much as you can and as best as possible.
I love the way that you talk about the strategy aspect of it, because I think it goes back to the point. It's not just about posting a message or writing a blog post for the sake of a blog post. I think as social media enthusiasts and practitioners ourselves, we fall very heavily into the editorial calendar type personalities. We look to create content that's going to provide value. And as you said, a lot of companies and businesses aren't set up that way. So they look at social media as just another opportunity to push a message out rather than another opportunity to build a relationship. And so they see it as a single entity rather than a 360 piece of their entire company and part of their entire culture. What are some of the biggest hurdles that you come across in the time that you've been, in the business of social media? What are the biggest hurdles that you come across when you talk to companies and try to change their mindset from the way they think social media should be done versus the way it should be done?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question. And I would say, maybe 2 years ago, my answer would be different. 2 years ago, it would be trying to convince companies that this is a viable channel, it's a viable medium, and they need to do it. I think, at least in my experience within the last year and a half, companies and organizations are realizing, oh, shoot, this isn't going away. We need to do something about this. And that comes with positives and negatives. Positives, because then you don't have to have that conversation where you're trying to convince them to do it. They want to do it. The negatives is that, in my opinion, in this whole social media marketing agencies, firm, consultants, there are very few professionals that I believe are showing clients the right way to do this. And not that there is one way to do it, but I see a lot of snake oil salesmen and women selling, oh yeah, we need to get you on Facebook. We need to get you blogging. I'm not hearing best practices and methodologies of why the social web is, one, in existence, two, how it works, and more importantly, how it would work for the potential client or customer. I think now the biggest challenge is, there's actually three. One of them is time. Though companies recognize that they need to be in this space, again, this isn't as simple as just building a website. Not that that's simple, but they just don't have the resources or the time, or they feel they don't have the time, or they don't understand how they can make time for this to work. Because it does take time. It takes a lot of time for it to work. The second thing I think we bump into is keeping it one cohesive package. When I say it, the whole strategy. And when I say strategy, not just social media, but okay, you hired us to help you with your brand, with your messaging, your marketing, your collateral, your website, your social media. That's all one big thing, and there's many moving parts, so we got to make sure that's all in line. I think you hit it on the head where a lot of people look at social media as either a tacked-on or an individual component that will spin its own gears and make magic happen for the rest of the pieces. And not that, companies are to blame for that, because that's just how they've worked for the last 25, 50, 100 years. So that's to be expected. But that is a challenge, showing them, I would say, flattening the companies so there's less, like hierarchy. So this whole social media thing can actually be a cultural adaptation versus just, just a tool adoption. And then thirdly, I think the biggest challenge we get is the ROI question. How are we going to measure this? What is our ROI? what are we going to get out of return? And, you know, that's the biggest question as any. The challenge with that is showing clients that, you know, you can't necessarily measure ROI when you say what's the ROI of social media. However, you can say what's your objective, and not necessarily just your social media objective, but what's your overall marketing objective. Are you trying to build a loyalty program? Are you trying to sell your new product or get people to sign legislation for your nonprofit organization? Are you trying to build awareness of your products or brands because no one knows exactly who you are? Well, those are things that we can measure, and there's components in that we can track. You know, KPI, key performance indicators that could relate to ROI. And also, don't forget to overlay all your traditional marketing collateral and ROI that you're measuring, and overlay that with your social media tracking and measuring to see what relationships pop up, because that's where you start pinpointing the ROI, and that also takes time. Companies are receptive when we approach them and say, you know what, we have buckets where we can track information for you. They like that. But it still takes time to kind of like put those pillars into place to make sure all the cogs are running smoothly.
Wow, that's fantastic. You know, Louis and I, you know, agree pretty much with everything that you said. We've talked about it for many years on Tech in 20. And, you know, earlier today at LeWeb, Jeremiah Oling posed the question that you wouldn't get in a plane unless you knew the pilot had been certified, and that you wouldn't have surgery unless you knew your surgeon had completed medical school and residency. Yet people, without even thinking, are so willing to believe those snake oil salesmen when it comes to social media. So you're right on the target with that. And I just have to ask them the question, the follow-up question to that is that a lot of times, and you've probably run into this, you have folks who have encountered the snake oil salesmen, and they are beat up, burned out, and they're kind of jaded a little bit when it comes to social. You know, what are some of the things that you talk to them about to kind of convince them that it's well worth their time? Or maybe in some cases they need to pare back, you know, just, you know, a little bit of your advice when it comes to some of those folks who encounter the snake oil salesman first.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I had the experience working with a client where they actually wanted me to sit in on a phone call with two other potential social media / digital vendors. And at the time, we were actually their agency of record. I was a little confused because I thought this was actually what I was supposed to be doing for them. And I sat on both calls and made my notes and waited for both of the potential vendors to disconnect from the conference call. And they asked me, so what do you think? And I was like, I can't believe you're actually considering working with these these vendors. I heard nothing but tactics. I heard you need to be on Facebook. I heard, or when I asked about ROI, one of them said, oh, yeah, we track likes and follows. When I mentioned, do you track behavior, they said, well, that's likes and follows. Everything that I can provide to you goes well beyond likes and follows, goes well beyond Facebook. What I am doing is showing you, again, how to communicate with your customers. I'm showing you that the social web is a referral engine, and if your business is based on referrals, guess how many more you'll get if you communicate effectively through social media. What I'm doing is showing you how you can help, not necessarily market, but help your customers through social media. And in that sense, you will be marketing with them, not just to them. Yeah, you know, I have to give credit for taking the time when I first got interested in this space, just studying and reading, not just social media, but just kind of like behavioral studies as it relates to internet usage, sociological studies, philosophical studies, you know, because I think there's a lot of components in here. When you talk social media, it's easy to say, oh, yeah, I can show you how to use Facebook. But when you talk communication, you have to understand people. And if you don't understand people, or you don't understand the little things that make individuals so unique, those little beats that can either offset a conversation or make the conversation, you know, a winning deal for you. I think those are things that I bring to the table that I know seal the deal. And at the end, I can also say, oh, by the way, I'll show you how to rock on Facebook too.
You know, it's funny because I think nowadays a lot of people hear the word social media and they roll their eyes. It's this echo chamber of blah, blah, blah Facebook, blah, blah, blah social media, blah, blah, blah transparency. I mean, it's become it's really become so repetitive. And then a lot of people say, you know, these buzzwords are over, they're past their prime. And while the words themselves might be past their prime, it's become an institution now that businesses are starting to adapt, like print, television, radio, online type of engagement marketing. And so and I think our audience would benefit from this because you have put the time into building yourself as a professional in this field. I don't want to call you an expert or a ninja or anything like that because we've all heard those buzzwords before because honestly we're all growing, we're all developing, we're all picking up trends, and these things are changing almost every so many months. I mean, so much new stuff is coming out. And so I think I would love for you to share with our audience, you know, especially for small, medium, large businesses, even nonprofits, what are key questions they should be asking when they're looking to have somebody assist them with the development of their social media platforms and the building of their strategy. Because I think so often they are kind of, their eyes glaze over because they have somebody who talks fancy, you know, they're selling them snake oil, and all of a sudden they find themselves trapped and, as Jennifer said, burned out and frustrated.
Right.
So what are some of the questions that you think any business or nonprofit should ask the people that they are considering to help them build their platforms?
Yeah, I think it's an excellent question, and I think one of the first questions you should ask any agency or consultant is, what have you done? You know, can you provide us any case studies that have shown that you've done social media marketing, social media communication, however you want to call it, label it, that has ended in a business result, has resulted in some sort of value for a business, nonprofit organization, what have you. Can you show us an example or explain to us an example? And if said agency or said consultant can't answer that without going again through the tactics of Facebook and all the tools and whatnot, that should be a red flag. I also think someone should ask a potential agency or consultant, how are you going to help us communicate on the social web? How are you going to help us create content how are you going to help us identify content and communicate through that content with our customers? How are you going to be able to help us measure our results, again, tied to our current marketing objectives? How are you going to help integrate social into what we're currently doing right now? How are you going to help us separate us from our competition? Or what do you know about our industry as it relates to social media right now? You know, any agency should do their homework approaching a potential client. You don't have to have all the answers, but you can say, you know what, the other day I was actually listening to a couple of your competitors. Here is who they are, and this is what they're saying. But more importantly, this is what they're not saying. So there's an opportunity for you to reach your customers through this window right here. You know, those are things we bring to the table, and that makes the client think a little. When I say think, not like, oh, wow, like, well, this is going to be a lot of work, but, oh, okay, business opportunity. Ah, okay, competitive edge. Oh, okay, yes, you will train us to do this, or you will help us learn how to do it just as good as you. That builds trust, and those are things that seal the deal versus just how many likes and followers can you give us. I could never be able to answer that. I can say a lot, maybe. But if that's all you're asking me, chances are I probably won't want to work with you anyway.
Wow, really sound advice there. Can you tell our listeners how they can get a hold of you? How can they connect with you through Facebook, through Twitter, your website, your phone number, your smoke signal address, really any way that they can get a hold of you?
Sure. On Twitter, my Twitter handle is Dave Murr, DaveMurr. The our company Twitter handle is Think Moncour, and that's as in Murray, O-N as in Nancy, C-U-R. Facebook, again, just type in Dave Murr, Facebook. That should pull me up. MoncourAssociates.com is our website. DavidMoncour.com is our blog. On Facebook, we're also Moncour Associates. And we're Think Moncour on YouTube. And actually, we just posted a video of our principal, David, talking about going through the identity process, how we kind of brainstorm at a high level identity for a potential client. And it gives you an insight into how we think. It's not just these tacked on solutions like, oh, here's a logo. We sketched a couple things and we made a great logo for you. You know, we really think about it, the whole picture when it comes to communication, branding, and identity. Let's see. Yeah, Facebook, we're there. Moncour Associates. YouTube, mentioned that. We're on Flickr, again, on Think Moncour. We even have a Delicious page. We're just, we're all over the place. So.
Well, you know what? It's great to see a social company practice what it preaches. I think that's also very self-evident, and that's also some due diligence when someone's looking for a company like yours. Are they even online? You know, do they have social profiles? How long have they been posting? What type of content are they posting? It's really great to hear that you're out there. So, folks, make sure you check that out. Look them up at Moncour Associates. Tonight, David Murray, I want to thank you so much for chatting with us, because I think you do provide some key insight, because I think, again, a lot of people are tired of hearing the buzzwords. They either have been burned or don't quite understand it. I think you've given and outlined some very key things to keep in mind, and, of course, questions they should keep in mind when they're asking or interviewing prospects to work in unison to build those platforms. So, again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me.
Great. So, folks, that's another TNT in the bag. And I got to say, if you're looking at contacting us, reaching us, you can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Twitter, you can find us on YouTube. Just look us up, Tech in 20. We are everywhere you are.
For Tech in 20, this has been Jennifer Navarrete.
And this has been Louis Sandoval.
Reminding you to get social. You've been listening to Tech in 20 with Louis Sandoval Jr. and Jennifer Navarrete. To the Moon theme music by Simon True. You can find more great music like this on the PodSafe Music Network.